I've been meaning to change my light bulb for a while. That's not just like figuratively, in a literal sense. I have had multiple light bulbs go out in my house, and through a combination of anxiety, um, lack of motivation, and several other things, I have mainly been navigating at night with a series of Christmas lights that are also slowly going out, rather than just trying to figure out which light bulbs I need to replace in order to have light in my house again. Um, for a lot of reasons, I just don't know. Life kind of piles up, and then you can't do anything, and then it's like, well, I don't really love these super bright LED lights that make everything look too blue white in terms of light. I prefer the like orange white sort of light, more candly. You know what I'm talking about. You guys understand colors. But like that's a real thing that has happened, but then also I haven't made a video in a while. I haven't felt like sitting down and editing and making content and explaining all of my fun little projects that I've been working on to you guys. I have worked on projects. I've been able to update my Instagram and paint stuff and even finish off a golden demon entry, but I still couldn't make myself change the light bulbs. And I couldn't seem to make myself want to sit down and edit a video. Even now, I have one mostly done. I have all the pieces there, but when it's cutting them up again and putting in the audio, I just can't seem to make myself do it. I've been in this block for ages and weeks, become months, become most of the year. Um, so I'm sorry about that. Life is pretty difficult. I find that having a full-time job can be pretty draining, and editing is not my favorite task in the world. So sometimes when I sit down to do that, I want to do the fun part. I want to do the making of the miniatures and the painting. Um, so it's tough sometimes. Adepticon happened a couple of days ago. I am not going to count. I don't want it to be over. I'm still living in this lovely little cloud, this bubble of happiness where all of everything is about miniatures and having a good time and getting to meet people, some of whom you've met before or haven't met yet. It's a great community. Um it's the nicest feeling in the world. I get to share what I do with people who are really excited to see my work in person. I mean, I definitely occupy this little niche quite happily, and I'm pleased to have you all here. But sometimes I worry that my projects are a little too weird. Like, for instance, with Golden Demon, everybody asks me kindly how my knight does, but the second I drop him off at Golden Demon Daycare, I know he's not going to place. I just don't paint in a way that celebrates or highlights the Games Workshop lore, and I'm totally okay with that. I like painting things the way I like painting them, which is a little bit stupid sometimes. You can kind of get lost um, in your own brain and think that because you aren't making content consistently or you're not painting stuff in a way that would get you a bunch of like recognition that it's that you're doing something wrong, um and you get kind of scared to keep making stuff and you lose motivation, and then you end up sitting surrounded by dying Christmas lights and kind of wondering what's all gone wrong. Not to get into my personal life too much or anything, but I kind of don't have the most supportive folks in the world, so it's it's not often that I get to be in any situation where I'm feeling a large sense of community. I get that at Adepticon. I had so many people come up to me and bring me presents and know about what I was painting or ask about how I was doing, ask me about my cats. I had brought 80 stickers with pictures of my little knight that I painted up for Adepticon on them, and my goal was to give them all away to people, both those who I knew and those who I had just met. And I was able to do that. I was at times completely swamped with gifts, and one of those gifts was light bulbs from my lovely Discord moderator Roz, who had listened to me complaining about this situation at one point in time and decided to just bring me some light bulbs. So while everyone was posting hauls or just telling people that they had come back from Adepticon and couldn't wait to get back to hobbying, I finally changed all the light bulbs in my house and am no longer sitting in the dark surrounded by Christmas lights. So to celebrate that, as part of this really long intro, I'm finally going to also finish the video that I started making ages ago. So here it is. How I made candy terrain for Mordheim. I really hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much for being patient with me. I promise I am doing my best.
And to my patrons who've been waiting so patiently, especially my top tier patrons, Annie and Paul No, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting me despite me taking my time with things. This whole idea really got started when I was watching Dimension 20's Crown of Candy campaign. Now, I'm not super into live play D&D podcasts because the ones that I had watched before were super long, and I would kind of zone out, but these ones were shorter. And also, if you ask me what my ideal media consists of, combining Candyland with Game of Thrones, fusing that into one expertly narrated product is, I mean, that's pretty close to ideal. You've got violence and you've got sugar and spice, so that's basically all I'm looking for in a piece of media these days. I really enjoyed watching the show and seeing the narrative play out, but almost if not equally, I liked seeing all of the beautiful battle boards that the team put together. I had never felt like I had wanted to do a job in the miniature painting world so bad as I wished I could have been on that production team. I got so inspired seeing all of the buildings, the color palettes that they were using, what miniatures they purchased, what miniatures they altered. It's really fun when you're so ingrained in the hobby that you can kind of pick out the bits and pieces of what someone might be using for a kit bash, or see something and go, oh, that's a good idea. And boy, did I ever have a good idea, because I stared at the beautiful sort of DM screen that the game master sat behind and all of its little details. I was like, I gotta do something like that. So I committed. And I finally started painting this terrain that I have, that I aspire to have built out into a proper, huge gaming board for Mordheim, a game that I've only played a little bit of. One test game at my local game store, and then another game with a lovely guy called Dylan at Adepticon just now, and also got inspired by a man called Thomas, who had a beautiful Cursed City inspired Mordheim board. Just gorgeous stuff. And I sort of sheepishly introduced my idea of Candy Mordheim, and they were both very enthusiastic and were like, yeah, you've got to do that. So another piece, another string light gone back on with that encouragement, really. This project, it is surprisingly simple and efficient for my level of wanting to put freehand in everything that I do. The main body of work is done by a purple and pink zenithal. It is exactly the way that you would zenithal highlight any other piece of terrain. It's just instead of black, you use purple, and instead of white or gray, you use pink. With that, a good 60% of the work is done for you because it already looks cute and like it's full of candy. And basically, all you got to do is pick out the textures that aren't stone. I essentially tried to like break it down into what the different building materials would be. So the stone I figured would be like a rock candy kind of substance. And so that was where all of the purple and pink were going. And by and large, that was just spray. I would later go back and highlight with other purples and other pinks just to kind of add some variation, but it's a simple highlight. I picked out the stone, which not the stone, but like the cobblestone, the other stone. There's two stones on this terrain. So the secondary stone, the cobblestone, I wanted to be butterscotch chunks. So I started with a base coat of scrag brown, and I would later add in a ochre color to bring out that butterscotch, picking out a couple of the bricks in white that would be painted with some peppermint stripes just to add some variation. And then borrowing from the narrative of the Dimension 20 Crown of Candy, they mentioned at points that some of the construction materials in the world was peppermint wood, like wood from a peppermint tree. And I thought that was really clever, but I wanted to put my own twist on it and not be stuck painting peppermint stripes for 20 years. So I went with kind of a spearmint look for the wood, using this really vibrant teal from Pro Acryl. It's a bright jade color that someone had gifted me ages ago. But you could use whatever teal you have lying around. I did the base coat in that, and then I picked out all of the wood grain with my favorite color in the world, Gauss Blaster Green. It had to make an appearance somewhere. It would not be one of my candy projects without it. For adding in the little details, it was painting tiny white dots on some of the rock candy pieces to make them look like they were sprinkled in a little bit of sugar or something like that, just to add variation and a little bit of detail. Then I also painted all of the peppermint stripes on the peppermint bricks that I had picked out. And I added a gloss varnish over those just so that they would have a little bit of shimmer and shine and kind of look like a peppermint. For the more unique details like the whipped cream, I just use a whipped clay product piped through a like pastry bag. But yeah, it's just a whipped clay product. It dries up like hard, and it doesn't flex or break or anything like that. So it'll hopefully last on this terrain for ages. I stuck some tiny little round red embellishments. They're just another product that you can buy. And I stuck those in for a little bit of variation to kind of look like cherries. And I added a couple of the various candy sauce decoration things. You can get these for like making miniature foods. They're just a resin essentially, like a liquid, and they cure and dry without any UV light. I don't know exactly what the material composition of them is because most of them are Japanese and I don't know how to read all of the product details. So I would say don't eat them, don't get them on your skin, but once they set and dry, they're fine, they harden up, and they look exactly like what they need to. I really, really appreciate the fact that this hobby has space for everybody in it to do whatever they want. I keep forgetting that sometimes and getting lost in my own little anxiety world of not feeling like I fit in. Um, but then I get to go to places like Adepticon where I have all of the support in the world. I have people who are so excited to see my work and to hear about projects. I got to do things like sacrifice the Cheetos corn demon that I painted up on a whim in my Discord channel one day. Got to throw him right into the grinder. Gosh, the meat grinder at Adepticon is the best part of Adepticon. I had regretted it after watching Trent Miscast's video last year about how cool the grinder was, because I was like, no, I could never sacrifice one of my little baby miniatures to the grinder. They might die, and then I would have to kill them, and that would be sad. But when you're in the moment, it's so fun. You don't care if you win or you lose. You're ready to sacrifice that little guy to the pit. It doesn't matter if he lives or he dies. My flaming hot Cheetos corn demon lived as he died. The center of the ring filled with lava. He was flaming hot to the very last. And everybody, they like clip off pieces of the losers for the trophies. Everybody was like, ah, that banner is going to be on the trophy. And it sure enough was. I met so many fantastic people at Adepticon, and I had a blast. And I really wish that we just sort of lived in this endless state of being able to go to cons and hang out with people. It's the closest I get to any sort of family reunion these days, and I really value it above all things. I'm going to try and keep that in my heart and mind more so that I can continue to finish projects and hopefully show them off to the world. If you guys want to like follow along with this little Mordheim journey, I'm tentatively calling it Smordheim, like a s'more. But if you can think of a cleverer name, please leave it in the comments because I'm not sold on that pun exactly yet. But if you'd like to follow along, I have little guys to paint up. I have a lot of terrain to make, and I have big ideas. I'm gonna start trying to be more bold about them and a little bit more consistent. And I have light in the house again, so that should help with the the everything. This has been a weird one, but hey, it's a video. You guys can't complain about it that much, because if you remember how I made my content months and months ago, you got a better memory than me. I'm doing my best here. I hope that you all are having a really good day. I'll see you in the next one. I'm gonna try so hard to make sure that video is sooner rather than later. Like the video, comment, and subscribe.